FBI raided the Washington, D.C. home of former Congressman Eric Swalwell, confronted him at a San Francisco International Airport, and seized his electronic devices. Now, law enforcement sources tell NewsNation both actions were part of an ongoing investigation into sexual assault allegations against Swalwell. It all happened this past weekend as FBI agents executed multiple search warrants targeting the former lawmaker. The airport confrontation was Saturday. The Swalwell home raid happened on Sunday. According to court documents, federal agents at the airport seized Swalwell's Apple iPhone with a charging cable as well as a wall charger. They also took this Apple MacBook Pro. Now, we reached out to Swalwell's attorney, Sarah Azari, friend of the show, for a statement today. They're not commenting tonight, though. But let's just remember for a second what's happening here. It was last April when Swalwell dropped out of California's gubernatorial race, resigned from Congress amid these allegations of sexual assault and misconduct. Several women, including a former staffer, had made those accusations, all of which, by the way, Swalwell denies. He hasn't been charged with any crimes. But now one of those women who's made allegations of sexual misconduct against Swalwell is Lonna Drewes. She spoke out the day after he announced his resignation from Congress. And Drewes alleges that Swalwell raped her at a Southern California hotel in 2018, claims that he allegedly drugged her drink when the two were planning to attend an event together. In a statement issued after Drewes' April news conference, Swalwell's attorney, again, Mrs. Azari, said Swalwell, quote, categorically and unequivocally denies each and every allegation of sexual misconduct and assault leveled against him. Joining me right now here in New York is Arick Fudali, one of Lonna Drewes' attorneys, managing partner at Bloom Fudali. I think they just changed the name, so very good to see you. Thanks for taking the time. What did you make of this development?
Interesting. You know, certainly an interesting development. I was a bit caught off guard because Ms. Drewes has not been contacted by the FBI or anyone from federal law enforcement.
Can you explain that to me? We were talking about, that's odd, right? Why do you think that is?
It is odd because Ms. Drewes has been perhaps the most public of Mr. Swalwell's accusers. As you stated, she did a press conference. There were a lot of people there. She spoke about very serious allegations of rape and drugging. One would think if the FBI was investigating Swalwell, at least to the level that they would get a warrant to search and seize his computer, his phone, stop him in an airport, that they would want to speak to the most vocal of his accusers. But so far, it's been radio silence from the federal law enforcement.
Well, what do you think they're looking for? Why? I mean, I have multiple questions. This was a very, very organized action here, going to the home, getting the devices, stopping up at the airport. What exactly do you think they're looking for?
It's hard to tell, and it's hard to tell what the allegations. I've heard rumors that these could be civil rights allegations, perhaps using his authority as a federal agent, a federal government employee to abuse women, some sort of civil rights, to deny their civil rights, something like that. It's very strange. Typically, in my line of work, when someone is seized their phones or computer, they're looking for text messages, they're looking for information, they're looking for some sort of evidence of either sexual assault, sexual impropriety, or something along those lines. You don't typically find it, though, in these types of cases. This isn't the type of case where you're typically going to see Google searches or text messages that would reveal any sort of crime. So I'm interested in what they're actually looking for.
Why now? Why now? Why right as he's at the airport?
It's another great question. I don't know where he was going. It says I don't know if he was flying out of the country and they were concerned, or maybe perhaps they knew that this was where he was going to be through some sort of intel, and that's why they seized him at the airport, a public place where there's a lot of law enforcement around. It's unclear. Again, this all came really out of nowhere. I would have expected to have my client speak to federal law enforcement if this was going to go forward. Again, so I was as surprised as anyone else this morning, or when I heard about the news. So it's unclear why this timing, and it's unclear really who they are even seeking charges on behalf. A lot of it is very under wraps right now.
Is it unusual that the FBI would be investigating sexual-related crimes like this?
It can be.
Alleged crimes.
Normally, yes, it would be somewhat rare. However, since he was a congressperson, or since he was a senator, he is a political figure. It's not too surprising, and there may be some charge that they could concoct that would have something to do with his time and using his position as a congressman, federal senator to his advantage to abuse women, deprive them of their civil rights.
Let me just take a step back here for a second. So you said that the feds never reached out to you or your client. Did she or you ever reach out to them since that press conference?
We've been focusing on local authorities. So we've been in touch, and there's an ongoing investigation, from my understanding, with the LA Sheriff's Office. And we've had multiple conversations with them, with our client. She's made a report. We've provided evidence and a lot of other information to them. So our understanding is they are pursuing their investigation against Mr. Swalwell. Perhaps there's been a sharing of information. I have seen that in my line of work as well. I represent a lot of accusers of very high-profile people where there's dual or sort of parallel investigations. So it's certainly certainly wouldn't be rare for the LA Sheriff's Office detectives to be sharing information and vice versa with federal agents.
What was your client's reaction to what happened today?
I think, there is encouragement. She is a bit encouraged. It took a lot for her. Very brave, very courageous for her to confront Mr. Swalwell so publicly, use her real name, show her face in public, make that statement. And anytime someone accuses a very high-profile person, there's always pushback. It's never easy. And so, I think she's encouraged to hear that there's been a real escalation of some law enforcement efforts against Mr. Swalwell, but I think also a little bit of confusion as to why she hasn't been contacted. If their investigation has gotten to the point where they're getting warrants to seize phones, to seize computers, you think that they would want to include or at least talk to the most vocal of Mr. Swalwell's accusers. So a bit of confusion as well.
Do you know if the feds have spoken to any of his accusers?
I have no idea. No, I have no idea who they've spoken to or they haven't. Again, this sort of came out of left field for all of us. We weren't aware that this was happening, again, which is rather confusing as to why we haven't been contacted. Maybe we will as the investigation, furthers, but we'll have to wait and see.
What has her life been like since that press conference? Because as you heard, I was talking about my colleague Sarah Zari, who was on NewsNation. She's representing Swalwell. Categorically denies these allegations. Seems like they're going to vigorously defend. What has her life been like? Has she faced pushback? Has she faced blowback? Has she faced claims that she's not telling the truth, that she's making this up?
I'd say it's a combination of a couple of things. There is some empowerment. She certainly feels empowered by standing up, accusing Mr. Swalwell publicly, doing that press conference, giving a detailed account of her very serious allegations. So she certainly felt empowered after that. When any accuser, there's always going to be pushback. There's always going to be hate and gross stuff online. I mean, I represent a lot of Epstein victims. We get comments in our social media, people not believing Epstein victims. I mean, there's always going to be some pushback and people not believing, accusing someone of being in it for the wrong reason. So there's been a little bit of that. So it's been a little mix, some empowerment, some, pushback, but I think she's feeling good. She's feeling strong.
For people who don't know, and you might be limited in what you can share, what's the corroborating evidence of her accounts?
I can't get too much into the evidence about what's been corroborated. I will say that we have provided what we believe is corroborating evidence to law enforcement.
Other than just her account?
Yes, absolutely. We have provided evidence and names of witnesses and such to law enforcement so that they can conduct their investigation. We're helping Ms. Drewes, we're a civil law firm. We're helping Ms. Drewes facilitate this criminal this criminal aspect, which can be very difficult for accusers.
What about a lawsuit?
It's being considered, but at this point, we're really focused on justice. We're really focused on criminal justice at this point. So right now, there is no civil lawsuit against Mr. Swalwell filed by Ms. Drewes on our behalf. And right now, she's really just focused on assisting law enforcement, whether it's federal, whether it's state, whether it's local, whatever it is, in really seeking justice and accountability against Mr. Swalwell.
This is a significant development. Typically speaking, what do you see from this? Look, I have to tell you, when you tell me this came out of nowhere, I've heard that in a million criminal investigations, right? Or even a civil investigation, right? I mean, sometimes you keep a suspect or defendant or what have you, person of interest, surprise. You don't know what's working behind the scenes. Sometimes it takes a while for her to gather evidence for a warrant. But what typically can we expect next after this development of the seizure of these devices and the search of his home?
Always hard to tell, but I would expect a pretty robust escalation after this and things to start moving very quick. You have to, of course, understand that in order for them to be able to seize that information, to seize his computer, seize his phone, stop him in the airport, they had to get a federal warrant for that. And that is not a simple task. So they have to present, of course, probable cause and beyond, and to even get the warrant to be able to do that. So clearly, they have a lot of information. They've gathered a lot of evidence, perhaps, enough to get this warrant. This might be that first step before really seeing a true escalation of more investigation, perhaps even charges soon.
Before I let you go, she's prepared to testify if necessary in a case, because why somebody would say, well, why didn't she come out immediately when this happened? And particularly, but now she has the strength to come forward and perhaps testify in a criminal proceeding or a civil proceeding?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. To answer your question, she is absolutely prepared to testify under oath, no matter what the whether it's her case, whether it's as a witness in someone else's case. And that's something that happens with accused or, alleged victims. It often takes them a long time to come forward. There's usually a long suffering and silence period. And Ms. Drewes' hope, and my hope as well, is that people will see Ms. Drewes' courage even after some time, see how courageous she was, and that'll empower other women. There will be sort of a collective empowerment to get other women to stand up, stop suffering in silence, and start standing up to and accusing their abuser.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on to talk about this. Again, it's a very, very big development on a legal front, also a political front. There's many layers to this. We're going to see if they have a comment back from Eric Swalwell's camp. But Arick Fudali, thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.